Bills Mafia. Are you ready? From North Carolina to Buffalo, the Mafia is united. This is your home for the passion, the power, and the pride of the Buffalo Bills. Welcome to Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover. Let's go, Bills.
Bills Mafia, welcome back to another episode of Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover. We just got done with Bills and Saints. And I know if you go back and look, and on our YouTube short, Tim had a 40 burger. That's what he was talking about. The Bills have a 40 burger. They did not get the 40 burger. And interesting game with the Saints. Wouldn't you say?
Way more interesting than it should have been.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. They had the 10-day rest. I think it was like 10 days, right, between Thursday and Sunday.
Yep.
And we've talked about this since week one. Like, Josh Allen coming off a bye and that offense is suspect in the beginning, right? In the first part. And then all of a sudden they get their legs under them in the second half and they do what they need to do. But this was one of those games, right, where they had that big long bye stretch, and then, they put points on the board, but Saints hung around.
The problem is, I don't have a problem with the offense. If you're putting up 30 points in the NFL, you should be winning. 30 plus points, right. You should be winning.
Right.
And so maybe 19 wasn't a lot, but as far as the Saints, first of all, the running game, they were running all over Buffalo. I'm really just not impressed with this Bills defense so far this year.
Yeah, I agree. And I probably should take a step back there. Like, I keep blaming Josh Allen coming out of buys and, slow starts. But you're right. Now that I think about it, you're right. The defense definitely plays a huge part into that. So I could see that piece there. Yeah, the run game is interesting. Teams are going to run on the Bills all the time until the Bills take it away, right? I mean, that's –
yeah.
And, there are – we called up Jordan Phillips, which I was the first to say that he was going to get called up on this show, Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover, and he got called up and he came in and played a series or two. But, they also got those defensive tackles coming back, not this week, but next week, or a couple defensive players, I should say, coming back next week. So there is some, hopefully some reinforcements coming down the road. But you're right. The Bills got to shore it up, especially if they're going to go late in the season.
Exactly. Hey, you got to win the games you're supposed to win. They won. So that's really what it comes down to. Every game's going to be tough in NFL. I don't care who you're playing.
Yeah, right.
They're pros for a reason.
Right. And the Saints, they're a dangerous team, right? I mean, any undefeated team is a dangerous team. Obviously they have nothing to lose there. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know that Spencer Rattler was 0-10 in starts in the NFL. Did you see that stat?
I didn't know that stat per se, but I know Spencer Rattler's not that good.
I mean, he's got wheels on him. He can certainly extend plays and that kind of thing.
He has some talent, and I think he could be a decent backup, but he should not be a starter. I think it's pretty much proven from last year to this year. And honestly, his college career wasn't nothing great either. So
yeah, that's right. One other thing before we close the book on the Saints game here, and I wanted to bring this up because I know we've talked about it. You have asked me several times on this show, but a lot of chatter about the wide receiver position for the Bills now and the production. And I have talked about it several times that I felt like the Bills don't need a true number one wide receiver, and that, with Josh Allen in there makes everybody else better. But Sunday's game, they shut down Kincaid. They shut him down for basically the entire game. And he is, he's a wide receiver / tight end. That's how I look at him. And Coleman had a decent day, but I don't want to take a step back here, but I feel like there's maybe a missing spot there 4 weeks into this now.
Keep taking a step back. Here's a problem. So you pretty much told me Kincaid's your number one. And that's what
I never said that there were. I never said there was a number one. I think Kincaid
but you just said it was like because they took away Kincaid, that threw off the offense. So that tells me Kincaid's really your number one. But you need a wide receiver. Good tight end's always good because you need somebody going down the middle. But you need a threat. I'm not saying you need a Stephon Diggs. I'm not saying that. You need a threat, as in somebody they're worried about. And right now, I don't think there's a wide receiver that Bills have that anybody's like overly scared or worried about. Hey, they're doing a good job, and Josh Allen puts them where they're supposed to be. But when the game's on the line and it's a 50-50 ball, is anybody getting it at this point?
We talked about it. I think I talked about this on Jets. Like, I'm still a believer that Josh doesn't need a number one wide receiver, but it was certainly with a team that's 0-3 like that. It just felt like the passing game wasn't there. And, Shakir is probably, I know you had mentioned Kincaid as being like the number one guy, but I think Josh's guy is Shakir, certainly. And if you shut him down, then that comes up.
Shakir I like, but he's just a typical little slot receiver. Does he do his job? Absolutely. He did great, but he's the typical slot receiver. You know what? You need someone on the outside. You need, honestly, Keon Coleman or Josh Palmer to step up and be that guy. More than likely, Keon Coleman, he has the talent to do it. And I know he's young, but he's the one that needs to start stepping up and being like, throw me the ball. I'll catch it. I don't care if somebody's on me.
So you're not talking about going after
I would suggest that. I would suggest that, especially when you guys are on the line right now. And obviously we're going for a Super Bowl run. You are one of two teams left that are undefeated.
Yeah.
So you know what? Go get a receiver. Go get a guy just for example, who just played in New Orleans. New Orleans is down. They're in a rebuild. Go get Chris Olave.
Yeah.
Get somebody like that. Go talk to Cincinnati. Try to get T. Higgins. Just a couple examples. These teams that are pretty much out of it already, go talk to them. Get somebody by the trade deadline. Get a threat.
I understand that. I can see that. Obviously, those are marquee players. Certainly big time. But what happens when you go there? Like, who's not playing? Like, is it Coleman? Is it Palmer? Because certainly the Bills want the Kincaid in there as much as they can. So who wouldn't play? That's my concern at this point.
Palmer
with the Bills. Who?
Palmer. I'm not saying he wouldn't play, but he'd be in the rotation. He'd be in the rotation. He doesn't have to be out there on every play. He wasn't like that when he was on the Chargers. He wasn't.
I know, but the Bills went out there and got him to be that role.
I think Palmer's got talent. Don't get me wrong on that. Yeah. I'm not saying bench him. I'm just saying get a rotation going. There's going to be injuries, guys. It's beginning of the season. It's going to happen. None of these guys are going to stay healthy the whole time. You're going to have to rely on some bench. Build up that bench.
Yeah. I agree with you there. That makes sense. I'm not sure if I'm on the side of I think I'm leaning more towards your other point where, hey, Coleman, you're our number one wide receiver. Let's get it going. Then trying to go out and get a T. Higgins or something like that.
This is the NFL. More than likely, they're not going to do these. There's not a whole lot of big trade deadline deals that happen. You know what?
Yeah.
So more than likely, that's what Bills are doing right now. Keon Coleman, we expect you to step it up.
I agree with you 100% when it comes to that part of it, and I do believe that Coleman, if there needs to be a number one wide receiver, I do believe that needs to be Coleman for sure on that piece. Perfect. And any last takeaways from the Saints game?
Like I said, all I want to see is the defense to step it up. I want to see a game. I'm not. It doesn't necessarily doesn't have to because obviously they're a balanced team, but I want to see a team where the defense takes over.
Yeah.
Obviously you want the offense playing well, but I want a game where you guys win because of the defense.
Yeah, I don't think that will ever be the MO for the Bills. I mean, I just think like when you have a player like Josh Allen, I mean, he's going to win games for you single-handedly. Like, any team that plays the Bills, they have to score. Their mindset is and this is what I was kind of surprised. I know we're going to end this, but you brought up a good point. If you're a Saints team or an 0-3 team, you can't be kicking field goals. Like, you got to go for it. If you're in offensive room, you have to circle 30 plus. Like, if you don't get to 30 plus, you're not going to win the game. And I'm not saying that the Bills are always going to score 30. There may be a game or two where they don't get there, but majority of their games, you have to score 30 or plus, or you don't even have a shot.
Well, this is what I want to see from the Bills then. If that's I know it's pumping up. The Bills are doing great right now. Let's see them play against good teams. Now, I thought Baltimore was a good team.
Yeah, I mean,
it's pretty much. I'll put it right now. I'm wrong. Baltimore has given up like 35 plus every game. They're out of it. They're not making the playoffs. I'm going to call it right now. They are not.
I'm calling it.
They are not making the playoffs this year.
Wow.
I got to see them. I want to keep seeing the Bills putting up these points against good teams. And obviously, we're not going to see that in their division.
I agree with you. So, I mean, look, the reality of the situation is good teams win when it needs to win. They didn't play. They weren't on the top of their ranks, but they got what they needed to get done, and that was a dub.
You play who's on your schedule. That's all right. You can do.
That's right. So next on the schedule is Patriots week. And so we've got a guest from the New England patsnation, I think they call them, coming in right now on the other sideline.
All right, Mafia, it's time for the other sideline, where we bring in fans from the teams the Bills are facing this week. We get their perspective, their passion, and maybe even a little trash talk. So buckle up, because it's not just Bills Mafia in the house. It's game week, and the spotlight's on both sidelines. Let's go, Bills!
All right, Mafia, welcome back to the other sideline. And I got to tell you, this is week 5. We've had 4 weeks of this. Although the Saints guy, I couldn't find the Saints guy, so we didn't have the other sideline last week. But this is a very special one for me. I marked this down on my calendar. I circled this. It's Pats week. And I am so excited to have my best friend, neighborhood friend for over 40 years, joining us in the other sideline. Jesse, welcome to Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover and the other sideline. Really happy to have you on here, man.
Thanks. So I'm sure your many followers are anxious to hear from a Pats fan, given the illustrious history here.
That is true.
Let me ask this, because I don't know how much you've told your listeners about kind of your Buffalo Bills bona fides here, but do they know kind of that the fact that you grew up the son of the president of the Bills backers Hartford chapter?
They did not, and I saved a lot of this for this episode because you are obviously a longtime friend of mine. Yes, my dad actually was the president of the Bills backers in Hartford. Yes, as we grew up in the Northeast there in a small town. So there was a little bit of presidency. Maybe this is what evolved, 40 plus some years for me to do this podcast.
What a pedigree. What a pedigree that you bring to the table here. And what did we grow up? 2-3 miles from Bradley Airport?
2-3 miles from Bradley. Yep. So that will kind of pinpoint where we're from.
That's important, because I think people also need to know that you guys had the Buffalo Bills logo spray painted on the driveway, so that every plane taking off and landing for Bradley Airport would know this is Bills country.
That is right. I was the only house that had that, and you are right. And I witnessed the Bills logo while I was flying in from somewhere, probably Florida, to see my grandma. And you could see it. And I've had multiple people say it. Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So that would testify to the Bills Mafia and the Carolina Takeover fans that I have been a Bills fan for that long.
That's right. And you come from good Bills stock.
Very good Bills stock. Ton of Bills stock.
A lot of credibility you're bringing into the conversation.
Yes.
So I thought that's important to set the table, just so that, people were questioning. I read online sometimes, and people question, your Bills knowledge, or maybe, whether you're a true fan. So I just wanted to clear the air a little bit.
That's right. I appreciate that. And as long as we've known each other, 40 plus years, we have always been divided when it comes to this topic that we're about to get into. And this week, although I know there's a little special thing that we're going to talk about, which we are united in later on in this episode. But for this part, we have, since second grade, we have always been divided. And you have had to live through the 90s Patriots, where I was gloating at the highest high of the 90s. And then you get this little known man, Brady, in there. And then roles kind of reversed a little bit. And then now we're back to maybe the promised land with the 90s.
It's been a ride. That's for sure. We've definitely switched positions a few times on this thing.
Exactly. And I want to start off, Jesse. One of the topics that's been coming up lately with Bills Mafia is this Joe Brady, Josh Allen kind of connection here. And it made me think a lot about, and I have talked about Brady on this show before, but it made me really think about McDaniels, who is now there, and with Brady, because Joe Brady had an opportunity to be a head coach. He declined, but I'm curious from a Pat standpoint, especially during the Brady McDaniels era, like how important do you think that was for Brady in his success? Because people here in Bills Mafia feel like if Joe Brady leaves for a head coaching job, maybe that would be different. How did that correlate with Brady? Massive success for Brady with McDaniels?
Yeah, but I mean, don't forget. I mean, Charlie Weiss was the OC, from 2001 through 04. I mean, so Brady already had 3 Super Bowls under his belt by the time Josh McDaniels comes on board. But I mean, look, I think it's fair to say that Josh learned from Brady and Brady learned from Josh. And at the end of the day, it was a great relationship that led to a lot more wins than either one of them would have had, individually. But I mean, I think it's a little different in the sense that, Josh at this point is a fully fleshed out professional quarterback, right? And just like, if you look at Brady, he basically had the same winning percentage under all 3 offensive coordinators that he was under throughout his career. So, if Allen were more of like in a Drake May posture in terms of where he is in his career, maybe that'd be a little more concerning. But look, Josh is going to be awesome no matter who that offensive coordinator is. He's going to be the foundation for that offense. And I think he's got all the leadership and all the intangibles and all the physical abilities. So look, that's the nature of the NFL, right? Good coordinators leave all the time. I mean, throughout the Pats dynasty, we saw it almost every year. We were losing our assistant coaches, and you just got to roll with it. Josh will be fine.
Yeah, and I agree with you too. And I've talked to a lot of Bills Mafia fans on this point. Like, look, we're at a point now where, we don't have a number 1 wide receiver. It's been debated on this show constantly, especially with Tim the Outsider. We talked about it earlier in the show, but it's been debated constantly about the number 1 wide receiver. So I agree with you. Josh is at a point right now, he's picking plays. He is not like Brady's giving him a list of plays and he's saying, I'm not doing that one. We're doing this one. So I do agree with you. But it's just been a hot topic here, so I wanted to just kind of pick your brain right off the tat there. But tell me a little bit about Drake May, right? So interesting first year in New England, but he's kind of turned it around a little bit. And so coming from New England, kind of where's Drake looking, and how does that look for you guys there?
Yeah, you got to start, first of all, with the understanding that last year was a dumpster fire, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that entire coaching staff was basically like way over their heads from the get-go. Drake steps into a scenario where there's no real coaching to speak of. There's no real talent on that roster to speak of. And then, he doesn't start until the 4th or 5th week, right? And so it's I think you got to throw that out. I mean, it's basically the benefit of last year for Drake May was he got some reps as an NFL quarterback, full stop, right?
Yeah.
And then you turn to this year, right? You have a professional coaching staff in place. They've layered on some talent at the offensive line, at the receiver positions, the running back slots. And I think, you know, it's a process. He's still a really young, a wicked young quarterback, as we would say back in Connecticut. And he's I think as a Pats fan, he's showing all of the things you'd want him to be showing right now in terms of, does this guy have the ability to be like a top 10 quarterback eventually, top 5 quarterback eventually? I think so. It's going to take some time. He's developing still. You know, you see, week to week is still making a lot of those mistakes, particularly mental mistakes that, frankly, Josh Allen made right for the first couple of years.
Absolutely.
And it took to kind of settle in. And I think that's kind of where we are with him. I think it's been a few years in the darkness as a Pats fan. We're starting to finally see a little bit of light, and I think Dre is the biggest reason for that.
I agree with you. I do like Drake May. He's a Carolina boy, right? I'm pretty sure he's Carolina boy. So
I'm a Panthers fan.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, I obviously being down here in Carolina, I get a lot of coverage from there. So, you know, he was well loved here. But I do like it. I would say I do agree with you. He is probably in that top 15 quarterback range right now for sure. I think he definitely has the skills to get in there in the top 10. I do believe I think he does off-season work with Josh, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I think they are friends there.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, any young quarterback coming in, you know, working out with a Josh or a Patrick Mahomes, that's definitely going to be good there. Tell me a little bit about Campbell here. We don't really talk about offensive linemen on this show a whole lot, but that's a big boy out there in left tackle.
Big boy. He fills probably the team's biggest need, right, in terms of a lockdown left tackle. I mean, that position, that whole O-line last year was a disaster, right? I mean, they couldn't stop anything. And Drake was running for his life, I mean, every single game. Yeah. So you bring on a guy like Will Campbell, he kind of locks down that left side of the line, and that kind of allows everybody else to kind of be, you know, putting it in their real positions instead of playing out of position on that line. They've gotten a couple guys to plug in here and there. They basically wholesale remade that line, right? And so you're starting to see now they can run the ball. Now they can do play action, whereas, you know, last year you didn't have the time to even pull off some of those longer developing plays. So it's, to me, I mean, setting aside the fact they should have had the number 1 pick before the Bills intentionally lost to them the last season, but he's been awesome. I mean, I think he's kind of, you could see what that career trajectory could look like for him. He could be something special, and that's what you need. You need that like lockdown left tackle, right, to protect the blind side.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you know, the Bills have probably one of the best offensive linemen, arguably maybe the best offensive lineman. They retained all 5 offensive linemen. I think they've retained all 10 in the offseason. I think that's what being said there. So we're talking backups. And that is key, especially for a guy like Drake, you know, especially a rookie quarterback, and getting down and making sure that you know, that's protected there, especially, you know, his blind side on that piece. Any other
continuity, right, where they're starting to learn how to play together, right? I mean, you know, O-line play is all about just trusting the guy next to you, right? Everybody's going to be where they need to be, right? And you're starting to see that starting to gel a little bit. I mean, with everything else in the Pats, it's going to take some time, but I think we're all, as Pats fans, we're all just looking like, are we on the right path now? Because we haven't been for like 4 or 5 years, right? So
and it takes time. I know, obviously, Josh Allen's an outlier, but, you know, certainly there are teams out there trying to get it and making sure that they get the right quarterback in place, because we know Bills Mafia 17 years, and we went through a ton of quarterbacks. And if you don't get the right one, that sets you back. And people don't realize that when you draft a first-round draft pick and he doesn't work out, that's 4 years that you are set back. That's right. You add those up season after season, you're at 8, 12, then you're at 17 years. So hitting on that quarterback is so big. And then getting the offensive line, like you talked about, to be able to get in there and hold it tight. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely I loved everything that New England did in the offseason. So before we get to Diggs, Jess, I want to talk about Matt Collins. All right, so Matt Collins came from Miami. He came to Buffalo, and no one knew who the hell he was. And then he came out, and he just light up the season. Really good guy, barefoot guy, super comedian guy, but really a reliable target there. And I haven't seen a lot of Patriots game, but Matt Collins, from a New England standpoint, is he kind of set up for the same role, just a support person for Drake May in that scene? And what's been like kind of the vibe?
Yeah, he's kind of been under the radar so far, right? He'll get some touches here and there, but he definitely hasn't been a focal point of that offense. And frankly, I think they spent the first four weeks of the season trying to figure out what they have in that receiver room. I mean, Diggs is what he is, but remember, he's coming off an ACL injury, right? He's not going to eat from that. And so he's starting to kind of show like that he can be what he was, the last previous few years. And then they got guys like Pop Douglas, who I think that there are a lot of question marks around. I mean, it's been a tough few years from the receiver standpoint for the Pats. And so again, anybody they can bring in and just act like a professional NFL receiver, I think is going to be an upgrade. And I think that applies to a few of these guys right now. Booty been great so far, right? I mean, really into his own. So frankly, all this in my mind is a function of having like a real quarterback and a fairly decent line.
I think Mac, the offensive line for sure. Mac is going to be really good for Drake because he is very reliable. So really good piece there for Drake. And I get into my prediction later on the show, so people got to wait to the end. But I will say that Mac will have a huge game against the Bills. Let's get to Diggs because that is the guy that Bills Mafia is waiting to come in on Sunday. 100-yard game against Carolina last week. And Diggs' last 100-yard game was week 6 of last year. So 100 yards here, starting to heat up.
Yeah. Again, I think I don't know that he's 100% back just from an injury standpoint. I think they're trying to ease him into this offense. And frankly, last week was the first time you really saw even glimpses of the old Diggs. So look, if he can be a fraction of what he has been historically, I think that's a huge get for the Pats. But in my mind, especially with this Josh McDaniels type offense, right? A lot of slot receiver play, a lot of slants, misdirections, timing routes. He could be a really important piece for Drake May and for Josh McDaniels. But it as always with some of those McDaniels offenses, it takes a few weeks to kind of everybody to get into sync and to kind of everybody understand what they need to be doing on every single play. It's a complex offense, right? And so I think you're going to see more and more Diggs going forward, and I think he'll return to that form. But it may take another couple of weeks.
Yeah, but would you say Diggs is the number one guy right now for Drake?
I would say it's Booty and Diggs.
Okay.
1A, 1B. And I think that'll probably flip over time, and Diggs is going to be the preferred target.
As you know, growing up, you and I, my favorite player was Steve Tasker, so I love the special teams aspect of the game. I still have his Tasker jersey, and for those of you that know me, know that for a fact. Got his book and all that, but curious on Marcus Jones here. Yeah. So heard a lot of chatter coming out of Pats Nation about Marcus Jones. Haven't really seen it. The Bills special teams, I don't want to say it hasn't been good, but I think with the whole new rules and stuff like that, really everyone's exposed to it. So if you don't have a good runner, it's tough. But Marcus Jones, chatter out there amongst Bills Mafia, he's elite.
Oh, an elite punt returner for sure. And he showed that last year too. I mean, he should have had 2 punt returns for touchdowns last week. Right. I mean, he had one, and then at the very end of the second run, the punter got a finger on him and he wound up going down. But the guy's awesome. And that's the kind of position that when you bring that kind of skill to the table, like it can change games. It can change how punters need to punt to you. It can change coaches' decisions in terms of when to go for it on 4th down or not. I mean, that's it's a kind of an under the radar, sneaky important role when you have somebody who can be like that difference maker. So again, another piece of the puzzle for the Pats. I think, they'll continue to build off of that as something that we saw last year, as I said. But again, I think, as a Pats fan, the more they can layer in like these really like athletic players, it's such a distinct where they were the last couple of years. Everybody's just slow plodding. We would watch these Pats games last year, and then you'd go and watch other teams' games, and it felt like they were running on like 2x speed when the other teams were playing.
Well, we've been there. So we know.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think in week 1, when I was talking to Chad at the Ravens Purple Perch there, I had mentioned special teams was going to be huge this year. I think even with a guy like Drake May, if that is also one of the keys of the game for me is the Pats beating the Bills is Marcus Jones getting that, because if he can get that to the midfield mark, the Bills haven't been that good on special teams. If he can get it in half that field for Drake May, That could be a huge plus for you. I don't think you can't kick field goals against Josh, that's for sure. But so you got to score there. But I do think that is going to be a big piece. And the flip side for the Bills too is like New England's got to have a good special teams. They cannot let Josh get the ball anywhere past the 35. It's going to be real tough for the defense and that kind of thing. And as far as the special teams go.
Let's be crystal clear that the Patriots are not winning this game. Right? I mean, they have had a cream puff schedule so far this year, and then they have a bunch of tomato cans after the Bills game. So they haven't been tested like this yet. I think if I were a betting man, I'd take the Bills and the points here easily. It's just for me, it's like, can they be relatively competitive? Can they show that, they deserve to be on the same field with a team, like the Bills, but they're not winning this game. I mean, let's
again, like my predictions at the end here, so you have to tune back in for that. But I have the Bills winning this one for sure, but I don't think it's going to be that, I don't think it's going to be, 40 or anything like that. I do think it's going to be close. And one of the reasons why I do think it's close here is the Pats defense is number 2 on the run. So their run defense is number 2. And James Cook right now is 400 plus yards. I think he has 401 yards. Interested to hear kind of the perspective from a defensive side of point, because it's almost like a two-headed monster, right? If your defense is number 2 in run stop and you try to stop Cook, that leaves you man-to-man basically on the outside. And I know Gonzalez is back for you guys. So how is the defensive kind of philosophy you would think going into this one? Or, from a fan's point of view, how do you think you would try to shore that up?
I think the challenge with playing the Bills is, no matter what you do, you still got to figure out a plan for Josh Allen, right? And so you load up on Cook, and Josh is going to run or find receivers downfield. I think the good news for the Pats is, Gonzalez is back. I think so that you lock down that one side of the field with that one corner, but there's still so many other options for a Josh Allen led offense. So between the running game, the passing game, the quarterback's running game, I just think they're not going to be able to keep up.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really interesting from a Bills standpoint how the Bills approach the game, because Cook is literally on fire. And so with the number 2 defense, it's going to be interesting to see if Brady tries to attack that run early. But I agree with you. The position that we're in, and one of the main reasons why the Bills needed to sign James Cook, not for 15, but for 12, was so that, you can't lock down both of them. You got to take one of them away. And I know the Patriots play a ton of man, and historically, especially, Josh has really torn up man coverage. So I'm interested to see kind of how the Pats go about their defensive side, especially if they're going to shut down Cook on that side.
Yeah, whatever they do, it's not going to be enough. I mean, let's try to keep it close. What's the spread as we sit here today? I think it started at 8.5.
I think it's at 8.5, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean, if they keep it to somewhere in that realm, that's a huge moral victory for the Pats, right? And they can build off of that. But the flip side of that is, look, who knows with these divisional games? I mean, you guys saw it in Miami, right? I mean, all of a sudden, these guys just know each other so well that anything can happen. But there's just such a talent disparity between the two teams.
What I'm worried about the game is that, Pats get the ball, they drive down the field. I'm not worried about it, but they drive down the field, and Drake May puts 7 on the board quickly, because what that does for a team, and Tim talked about this, is that it's going to, give them more confidence, right, going into this and that kind of thing. And with a good defense like they are, that could try to maybe keep them in the game a little bit longer than I would think or be comfortable.
I appreciate your undeserved respect for the Patriots.
Yeah. You got to. Vrabel, let's talk about him real quick. I mean, the only reason why I'm giving praise is Vrabel there, right? I mean, he does really well at Tennessee, and also Pats Nation, you have to realize that, I mean, when Vrabel was in Tennessee, Bills had a tough time against them. We had Josh Allen, back then as well. So, there's a piece of that, in here as well, which kind of makes Bills Mafia a little bit worried. But, obviously, with Mail, you called it a disaster, I think would be fair to say to Pats Nation. It was probably a disaster.
I think I said dumpster fire was
Okay,
the word.
dumpster fire. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, certainly there. But the hire, I was pretty interested in the hire. I thought they may have went out of the organization there. I didn't think they would go in. Certainly, he brings a different structure, accountability there. But overall mood, especially 4 weeks into this with Vrabel.
No, I mean it feels like there's an adult in the room once again. I mean, yeah, after last year and not having any confidence in that coaching staff's ability to draw up game plans in any meaningful way, and then you turn around and from the get go, I mean, even from the draft and the free agent moves that Vrabel was really heavily involved in, and then through training camp and the first four, like it's a professional coaching staff, right? And that in and of itself is a win for the Patriots. I have this kind of armchair psychologist theory, which is I think Kraft is trying to kind of recreate the Belichick hire, right? So remember when Belichick was hired, he was a failed Browns coach, right? First time around, still, there was talent there. You could see he had it in him, and then this was going to be his second crack at it, and I feel like it's a little bit the same with Vrabel, right? I mean, he came out of that Titans job, wasn't a huge success. And I think Kraft was like, well, his second time around, he'll learn those lessons coming out of that role. He'd be able to apply them and just be, a little bit more experienced. And I think that's kind of the mentality going in. So far, it's worked out, right? I mean, he's what you want in a coach in terms of, he believes in the players. He's a, hard-nosed kind of, true football guy. I just think, it just changed the culture on day one, and we'll see where it goes from here. But at least you get the sense, like I said, that there are people in charge who know what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree. And culture is a big thing. Never knew about culture until McDermott and Bean got together. I mean, that's the culture. So I think every team now that maybe it's had their ups and downs, they're looking for that culture. And I think he does bring it there. Kraft trying to recreate things is interesting. But certainly I think for you guys in this position, like, look, the AFC East, unless Josh gets hurt, knock on wood, I mean, the AFC East is going to go back to the Bills. So, and Miami and the Jets are not going to be anywhere near you guys. And so, really you have a legitimate shot, I think, to try to get into the wild card. And that's really, I know the players are not thinking wild card, right now, week 5, they're thinking about winning the division. But as a Pats fan, realistically looking at it, you got a real shot to get back to the playoffs here.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is just a function of they have a really weak schedule this year.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I mean, we're both playing the NFC South, which not a ton of talent there.
Yeah.
The rest of the past schedule, barring a couple Bills games here and there, it's just not that difficult. So, look, they could win 7, 8, 9 games, be competitive, make a run at a playoff. They're not going to go deep into playoffs if they make it. But I think realistically, as a Pats fan, like I said, we're all just looking for, are we on the right path? Is the trajectory here one that is upward, right, instead of just status quo? And look, 4 weeks in, I think the answer is probably yes. But it's been a roller coaster too. I mean, they lost a very winnable game to the Raiders. They played the Dolphins in a game that both teams seem to be actively trying to lose at the end. 5 turnovers against the Steelers, right? And they dominated that game all 4 quarters and wound up with a loss. And then finally they put it together against the Panthers. So
and blow them out, yeah.
It's a young team finding their way. Yeah, there's going to be hiccups, but again, the schedule probably puts us in a position where we can be 7, 8, 9 wins. Doesn't mean we're a great team.
You get in. Once you get in, that's what Josh always said. Just get in. Just get in. So, this is everybody in the NFL knows they've, through this all. This is the last year of Rich Stadium. I'm calling it Rich Stadium on the show. It's Highmark, but I grew up in Rich. I've been, through it all. So one of the questions I'm always asking in the other sideline is, what is one memory that you have about the Bills? It could be Bills versus Pats or Bills versus something else that was either in that stadium or part of that era. And so I want to throw that question out to you as a Pats fan, longtime Pats fan. What is one memory that you have of the Bills and either Bills Pats or Bills another game that we would lock up in that stadium forever when they tear it down?
This is going to be maybe a personal one for you and I.
I think I know where this is going.
What year was the Music City Miracle?
Ooh, yeah. So Bills Mafia's gonna have to help me out here. Like 90,
late 90s, right?
Yeah, it was late. I think it was late 90s. Yeah.
Well, you and I were driving home. I feel like it was a New Year's Eve party, maybe up in
It was New
Boston,
Year's Eve. Yeah, I know exactly
right?
where you're going with. Yes, New Year's
And so,
morning. We had a
yeah.
few too many adult beverages, and we stopped at to get some food on the way home. That is correct.
I don't remember the adult beverages part. I think it was pretty squeaky clean in my behalf, but yeah. And so we were driving home. I think from Boston, New Hampshire, somewhere up north. We're on the highway. We're we're listening on the radio to the Bills, right? The Bills Titans game.
Yeah, we're on the radio. Yeah.
And late in the fourth quarter, Titans go up. I'm sorry, the Bills go up.
Yeah. Christie kicks a field goal.
Kicks a field goal. The clock is winding down. There's maybe time for one last kickoff to the Titans, and they can try to do something out of it. Look, I don't need to explain to your audience what happens next. The Music City Miracle.
Yeah.
But prior to that, when the Bills went up on that field goal, you lean out. I'm driving. You lean out the passenger window, like to the point where I grab your belt, because you were not just leaning your head out. You leaned your entire upper body out. Screaming.
Yeah. For everybody that's watching patsnation New England, this is out by Springfield, Mass. Yes. So
that's right. It's right by Interstate 91 as we're passing literally Springfield. Scream. I've never seen such joy in a human being, in a grown ass man, as I saw at that moment. I was almost welling up. It was just amazing how happy you were. You just want to see your friend in that kind of state.
That's it.
And then when the Titans come back and do what they did on that kick return, I've never seen somebody look that sad. And so I this goes back to your credibility as a Bills fan. You rode the waves, you rode the highs, you rode the lows.
Yes.
It's not often you see the lows that close to each other in literally a span of about 20 seconds. But man, were there tears? I think maybe you were crying afterwards. I remember there was a lot of emotion.
There was a lot of emotion, but what you may have forgotten, because it happened in a split second, is I had my head out the window with my old 90s Bills hat, driving through on the highway through all these buildings, right down New Year's Day, probably right down, going crazy. And then as I get myself in the car, I hear the radio. And they said, okay, whatever, like, all right, here's Steve Christie with a kick, and kicks it. And I don't know if you remember this, but all of a sudden the radio goes out.
That's right.
And the radio goes out because we're going through a dead zone or something. This is, for you kids, this is back when we didn't have like XM or Sirius. Radio goes out. And if you remember, because I remember this, it came back in after they've done the Music City Miracle.
That's right.
And I would say, what the hell happened? What happened? This is before cell phones, before any of that. So I couldn't call anybody to ask what happened. But that is how I heard about the Music City Miracle, was after it got over.
That's right. So So there was the intense joy, period of just like total confusion. Like nobody knew what was happening. And then it finally dawned on you. And so you went from, you were just high and then low and then up again. And then, it was, I still feel bad for you.
It was crazy. But it was definitely something edged in my head, because I appreciate you bringing up that story, because not a lot of people probably have a story like that. But I remember vividly that radio cutting off and coming back on, and all of a sudden, like, things have changed. And you're right. I shedded some tears, and that might have been the last time the Bills were relevant. Maybe was that last time. So the Music City Miracle, crazy. We're talking about that one.
It's the Pats dynasty started, a year or two after that, and it was just everybody kind of took a back seat to that. So and maybe this is a good segue, but as growing up a Red Sox fan, the days where every single year the Yankees would kick our ass and just be obnoxious as hell about it. I have a lot of sympathy for you, in those Bills years when the Pats were flying high. And so, look, on the one hand, it was great as a Pats fan. On the other hand, now the tables have turned, right? But But keep this in mind. I know in my heart that I will never experience a run like that as a football fan again. My absolute best times are behind me as a Patriots fan. I think about that. I never again will maybe make that kind of run. So you still have, hope for the future. Your best days may be ahead of you.
Yes.
So, maybe look at it that way.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, and I know we got to go here because I want to get you off. But set the 17-year drought. I never thought I would see it in my lifetime. And when I had kids, I was like, man, I don't even know if they're gonna see it in their lifetime. But big props to Brandon Beane and his scouting department to pluck Josh Allen, because it was Baker Mayfield and it was Josh Rosen. That's who I wanted. That's who all Bills fans wanted. There's not a Bills fan, you talk to them, that said, "Oh, I wanted Josh Allen drafted." They wanted Josh Rosen. That's who they wanted. And man, luckily the gods have been there. He has blessed us, and he is our man to take us to the promised land. And that is going to be one joyful day that I hope I get to celebrate with you, my friend, on that day that it happens. But before we go here, be remiss, especially two guys that grew up together since second grade in the heart of Red Sox, I guess Yankee land as well, but
50, right?
We're closer to Boston. So yeah, thoughts on the Sox before we get your final prediction on the Bills. Pat, thoughts on the Sox to starting the series here?
Yeah, I mean, look, as with the Patriots, it's been a dark few years for the Red Sox too, right? And so the fact that they are where they are is awesome. This team won me over. They won my heart, come like in May, June, all of a sudden they start bringing the rookies up. They start performing. Roman Anthony's story is incredible. I mean, they made some really great free agent signings with Crochet and Chapman. And they all kind of just seemed to gel like midsummer and just went on this run. And it just you forget, I live in Boston now for your followers. And you forget how different the city feels when the Red Sox are playing well, right? It's just the whole summer dynamic just shifts for the better. And so, it's been great to experience that again, and then to have it ultimately culminate now in this Yankees series. I mean, what's better? October baseball, Red Sox, Yankees, whatever happens here is gravy. Although I think it's kind of baloney that all three games are actually in New York.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Is that the case? All three are in New York? I like the fact that it's a 3-game series because we lived through the World Series and the comeback game and texting back and forth, and that took years out of our life. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, when the Sox are good, I'm tuned in for sure. And I guess with it being in New York, sweeping them, winning 2 games would be delightful and beautiful. And then we got to go probably play the Rays there, and we'll see what happens there. But
yeah, they got to win. They got to win tonight. Crochet is on the mound. They got to get that first one on the belt, and then I think they got a real crack at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate it, man. This is the jersey that the Bills will be wearing, so just so you Pats fans know, it's going to be white out all over Buffalo with the new jerseys. But, hey, man, I really appreciate you coming on. And real quick, what is the one thing the Pats need to do to beat the Bills Sunday night?
There's nothing they can do to beat them.
There you go, Pats Nation.
All right.
That's who's representing you.
Focus on the easier games on the schedule down the line, and let's just try to make it a little rough here.
Well, all right, man. Well, I appreciate it, Jesse, for you coming on. It's good to see you, my brother. And we've got another one down the road, so we're reaching out and maybe a little different talk for you.
Awesome. All right, man. Always good to see you, bro.
I want to thank again Jesse from Pats Nation joining us here on the Other Sideline. Appreciate his insights. And now it's time for Tim, the outsider, in my favorite section, Mafia Mail.
Bills Mafia, make some noise. It's time for Mafia Mail.
All right, guys, Mafia Mail. And this comes from Anthony Carter from Des Moines, Iowa. I think I'm saying that right. Des Moines, Iowa. Is that where the University of Iowa, is that where they are in Des Moines, Iowa?
It sounds right, but I'm not going to act like I know.
Okay, big college town. Well, anyway, Anthony, thank you for writing in. And he writes in, hey, Tim and Owen, Anthony here from Des Moines, Iowa. Last week, the Bills looked sharp, closing out drives, putting points on the board, but there was still a few missed chances in the red zone. With the Pats on deck, do you think Buffalo needs to clean that up to avoid letting New England hang around? Or will our defense be enough to carry us if the offense stalls at time? Great question. Exactly what Tim and I were kind of talking about in the beginning. Go ahead, Tim.
I'm gonna say you better score because New England's this is gonna be a tough game this week. I'm gonna tell you guys better be on upset watch because New England's been stepping up and their defense has been playing well. And Buffalo, like I've told you this before, Buffalo's defense is not playing well, so they better step it up against Drake May.
Yeah, it's a good point there, and I know I talked to Jesse about it, but I know Stephon Diggs had a monster game against Carolina, but it is Carolina, so it'll be interesting. And we'll get to our picks down the road here, but Anthony, yes, to your question about the red zone, absolutely. Josh Allen, generational talent. No, there should be, the Bills should not be kicking red zone field goals. What I mean by that is that if they're in the in the red zone, the 20-yard in, there should be no field goals. Field goals for the Bills should happen when Josh gets sacked and now it's 4th and 10 and they got to kick a 47-yard field goal. But it should be touchdowns all the time in the red zone. So I do believe that although we weren't really that proficient with the red zone, it is something that I know the Bills want to work on and really been working on, for the last couple of years there. And I think Keon Coleman's a big factor of that. And to your point, Tim, they really do have to put New England kind of away early, make Drake May throw. So then that point of the contention with the run game, hopefully, doesn't affect the Bills.
And you already know, Mr. Stephon Diggs is going to be stepping it up, and he's going to be trying to show Buffalo what they lost.
Hopefully that answered your question, Anthony from Des Moines, Iowa. We are now saying that's where the University of Iowa is. If we're wrong, email us, Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover. But we thank you for your email. And if you've got an email or a question for Tim the Outsider, make sure you do that by billsmafiacto@gmail.com. And that was this week's Mafia Mail.
And that closes out this week's Mafia Mail. Always love hearing from the family. Now, back to the action.
Patriots coming in to Orchard Park, obviously, Highmark coming into the stadium. Sunday Night Football. I believe these are the jerseys that the Bills, the rivalry jersey, which I did order. I do believe that this is that game for that, so that'd be interesting. But let's start X Factor for the Patriots. What do they need to do, Tim?
X Factor for the Patriots as far as them winning, as far as them doing what they got to do. Honestly, it's doing exactly what the Bills should be doing. Scoring in the red zone is, I think, a key factor is going to be Stephon Diggs versus Tre'Davious White. They've played against each other in the past, obviously during practices and whatnot. That's going to be let's see. Diggs is going to be pumped up for the game. Drake May has been playing well, so we need to see what the Bills are going to actually shut down. Or try to shut down.
What's your X factor for the Bills for this one?
It's the defense. I want to see, you got to make New England one-dimensional. I want to see the Bills actually stop the run. If they can stop the run and make them one-dimensional, I think they can actually cover the New England receivers. Yes, I know Diggs is there. There's not a whole lot of guys on New England I'm really worried about. And Diggs is not the same player he used to be, but Tre'Davious White also isn't the same player he used to be.
Yeah. Interesting on the Tre'Davious White thing. Like, he was pulled out of that game. I'm not sure for what, but it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. Because I do believe, Diggs and Trey, they're kind of like the same age, speed, they're probably, relatively the same. But it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. And again, I mentioned this with Jesse, the Bills have to get out fast. When you got a team like the Saints, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Patriots, especially the Patriots divisional game, you got to get out early. You're at home. You got to get that crowd going right off the bat. You got to get Dre May off his position. You really got to put the hammer down early. And the Bills have struggled to do that in these last couple games. So that is my X factor. The Bills get out early. I think if the Bills get out early on New England, I think the defense settles in. The defense is going to give up yards. There's no question about it. They're going to give up run yards. But if Josh can get things done early, I think that sets up to be a good success for the Bills.
Here's my thing, and this is what you guys. It's going to be the difference between you guys making the playoffs and losing sometime during the playoffs and going to the Super Bowl. It can't be all Josh Allen.
I agree.
It needs to be Josh Allen's going to be Josh Allen. He's shown it. It's not a flash in the pan. He's going to keep on doing what he does. Now, knock on wood, hopefully he doesn't get injured, because he gets injured, your team's going to be hurting. Now, I want to see who else on this team is going to step it up. So far, from what I've seen, James Cook's ready to step it up. I'm liking the way he's playing. He's taking a step forward even more than he did last year as far as the way he's playing. That's a guy that's stepping up. But I want to see some guys on defense step it up and start showing themselves. I want to see Bosa just start taking over. I want to see Greg Russo start taking over. Whoever it's going to be. But some people need to start establishing themselves as, this is my defense. I am the leader on this defense. Come follow me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on all those points. Certainly Bosa for sure. We need Bosa to be that game wrecker, because we've got Kansas City coming up in a few weeks, and then probably see them in the playoffs again. I mean, that's why we got him. I mean, we got Vaughn for Kansas City. We got Bosa, who I think is a little better, or better than when we got Vaughn, to be that closer, right? So he's got to do it, and especially with a team like New England. Got to get there, got to get Drake and disrupt that. I understand your point about Josh Allen. I do. And you need other pieces, and I'm not saying you're wrong on there. But when it's the old cliche, when it's 1 minute left to go in the game, do you want your Terrell Bernard and your Joey Bosa to win the game for you, or do you want your Josh Allen, right? And you want your Josh Allen.
Against New England with 1 minute left, I expect you to supposed to be up. I hope there doesn't need to be like, we got to shut it down.
I'm saying in general, like, Josh is the best player on the field, on either side, either team. He's the best player.
Okay.
So we are only going to reach the promised land as long as he takes us there. And I know in previous seasons we have struggled based on some defense and those type of things, for sure. And I get that. But just shoring up a small piece of that ultimately would help us get over the hump. And that's why we need, to your point, the Joey Bosas to be able to get there when crunch time matters.
Absolutely, because when have you guys lost in playoffs? Not because Josh Allen was playing bad.
Exactly.
Because you guys couldn't stop somebody.
Exactly. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game for sure. Drake May, he's obviously second year. I talked a little bit about this with Jesse, but it's going to be an interesting game. I would say I'm more concerned on the schedule. I was more concerned about this game than I was Miami and New York. And I know that we had talked about Miami, and I had mentioned that, I thought it was going to be much closer, but I'm more concerned about the New England game, I think, than I was with the Miami game.
You should be. New England's playing tough. They're a young team. They don't know they're not supposed to be winning.
Yeah, exactly.
And Vrabel's a great coach. He's already proven himself. He's a great coach. He's just putting that culture in.
Yep.
Going back to your point, as far as you better start early, you better try to kill these guys' confidence early, because you don't want them. They get up, it's going to be a tough game.
I don't see them getting up, like, in the sense that it's like a 2-touchdown differential. The Bills.
Even if they score before you guys 7-0, huge confidence boost. or something like that.
Absolutely. 100%. I agree with that. If they get the ball first, they drive down the field and score 7. No doubt about that. So I think really the bottom line here, from what I'm hearing from Tim the Outsider and myself, is Bills got to get out early and shut the door, and then just rely on that defense on that piece. You got a score prediction here for this one? I know it's not going to be a 40 burger from you.
It's going to be 40? No. It's, as far as this, I think it's going to be a tough game. I'm going to say 31-28 Buffalo. Buffalo wins by a last-second field goal.
Wow. We were talking about with Anthony in Des Moines, Iowa, about in the red zone needing to score touchdowns. You got to win a field goal. Yeah, I'm with you here. I think Josh puts 30 plus on here, so I'm going to go 35-17 Bills. I do think that Drake May does get out early, gets down there. I do believe they score in the first drive, the Patriots. I just think it's just, Bills get on their wagon, and it's just going to be too much for New England right now this year to get back to that, especially with Josh and the offense. And, had this game being played in Foxborough, maybe it'd be a little different, but I do think having the game at home Sunday night is going to play a part in that.
Have you guys played the first 5 weeks at home?
Yeah, I was just gonna throw this out here, Tim. So if you remember with the Ravens guy, I think I told him that the Bills were 10-0 at home. I think 10-0 at home. They are now undefeated at home, and they played MetLife, so that was away. Okay. They've just played New Orleans at home. They played Miami at home, and they played Baltimore at home. So they are 13-0 at home since last year.
Hey, that's great. That's great. And I'm going to tell you right now, do I expect them to beat New England? I do. I'm not going to be surprised at all if New England pulls off the upset.
Yeah, no. I want an undefeated season, but I also know that, that is not probably going to happen here. We're going to lose a game or two. I just don't think we can't lose it in the division. Sleepwalk against a Jacksonville like we've done the past couple years. I know it's a divisional game, but those type of things. But I think the Bills definitely get it done. Look, their schedule is super favorable. Bills here, Atlanta next week. Then they go on the bye, and they got Carolina, and then they get into Kansas City. So if they can get, and we talked about this last week, if they can this, next couple games racked up, that's 7-0 going in against Kansas City. And it's doable. The Bills can do it.
It's not only doable, that's what they should do.
Yeah, right.
That's what they should do. But
yeah,
I'm going to tell you right now, if you're going to have a hiccup, this is the game I'm worried about for you guys.
Tim's weekly picks. If you've been with us for the long haul, and I know a lot of you have, you know how this works. I give Tim 3 random games, and Tim has to pick them from the top of his dome without Tim knowing what games I've given him. So just to recap for everyone where we're at in the standings, we are 6-9.
Not great.
Not great, but you had the Commanders, and they let you down, I believe, again. I had the Falcons, so that was a pickup for me. We both had New England, so that was a win for both of us. And you had the Jets, and they got blown out by Miami. And I had Miami, so I picked up the win there.
Okay.
So 6-9, 8-7.
All right.
All right. So there you go. All right. Here we go. You ready for your new picks?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right. Dolphins, Panthers. Panthers just absolutely got crushed by the Patriots. Now they have to go in and play the AFC East Miami Dolphins. What do you got for this one? Man, they got a brutal schedule. I know the Dolphins aren't that good, but they're playing the AFC East. Brutal.
What's brutal? Miami schedule?
No, the Panthers.
Oh, the Panthers.
They just played Carolina, or they played New England, got blown out. Now, I mean, I know the Dolphins aren't that great, but still, I mean, they could crush the Panthers.
I'm not going to go with them getting crushed. I was going to go with the Panthers, but after watching Panthers this past week, I'm going to go with Miami to take this game.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that might be, but I think it'll be close. They'll win by maybe a touchdown, maybe at the most 10 points.
I have picked Carolina Panthers for the past couple weeks here. Panthers get the job done here, and they help out the Bills by keeping the Dolphins far apart. I'm going to go Panthers there.
Well, that's at least going to help me catch up in the standings.
Yes. Giants Saints. The Dart era has begun. Rattler's coming in. He's 0-10 as a starter, and they are also have not won a game. The Giants coming off a big win. What is Tim, the outsider, picking here?
With Neighbors being gone for the season, it's going to be a tough game. But Giants are winning this. I don't think Spencer Rattler is going to be able to take on the pass rush that Giants have. And Dart's going to find a way.
I agree with you on the defensive side of the ball for the Giants and Spencer Rattler coming in to play the Giants. I do think that's going to be a huge matchup, similar to Buffalo. My only concern with the Giants here is Dart is second game, but he's without Neighbors. And so when you got a rookie quarterback coming into the game without, a top tier wide receiver there, and I don't know much about the Giants, but that's my only hesitation here to go against the Giants is that piece of it. But I do believe the Giants get it done here. I think Dart gets it done on his legs. They find a way to win, and the Saints lose another game. All right, last game for you, Tim. The outsider is Cowboys versus Jets.
Cowboys versus Jets. I think Cowboys will absolutely destroy the Jets.
Even though they tied.
First of all, Dallas has continued to put up 40 points a game.
I know.
And tie. And their defense is horrible. But Jets don't have the offensive weapons to take advantage of that. So you know what? I think Dallas is going to absolutely stomp them.
All right. Again, this is one that the Jets need to win here. They're going to be, they're winless after losing to Miami on Monday night. I think they get it done. Upset City in Dallas. Upset City. Sauce Gardner, pick 6, wins it. I got the Jets beating the Cowboys. That might be the upset of the year on that piece. But that I got it. I mean, again, it goes back to
it's not a horrible call, and I'm not saying it can't happen. But from what I've seen this year, the Dallas offense has been playing great. Dak has been playing fantastic.
Yeah, I just think, again, a winless team is going to come into some place and get that W. So I see them getting that. So that is what I would pick there as the Jets. So that's our weekly picks. All right, guys, another episode of Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover. I want to thank Jesse from Pats Nation hopping in on the other sideline. Also, obviously, my co-host Tim, the Outsider, once again joining us. And if you have any questions for Tim, the Outsider, or you want to get yourself in the Bills Mafia Mail, you can do that as billsmafiacto@gmail.com, and we'll read that on our next podcast. And as always, be good, do good, God bless, go Bills.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover. Thanks for tuning in and repping the Mafia with us. Don't forget to subscribe, drop your Mafia mail, and join us next time as we bring the passion, the pride, and the power of the Buffalo Bills straight from the Carolinas. Let's go Buffalo.